All right, do I really need to introduce our next speaker? Can't I just say, here's Sarah? See what I mean? Everybody's fired up. You know, 2 years ago, most Americans probably hadn't heard of her. Now she's become literally a force of nature. But NRA knew her a long time ago, when she was just a hockey mom in Wasilla, Alaska. Her mayor had appointed a police chief who refused to issue concealed carry permits. She made it an issue in her campaign, NRA supported her, and she won. She went on to serve as Alaska's governor and showed that she not only believes in the right to keep and bear arms, but she likes to exercise that right on a regular basis. When John McCain picked her as his vice presidential candidate, she put her stamp on the entire world. My fellow Americans, please join me in welcoming NRA benefactor member and the most famous moose hunting hockey mom in America, Governor Sarah Palin.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Wow, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, NRA. Thank you. Wow. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. It is so good to be here with all you bitter clingers. Proudly clinging to our guns and religion and proudly clinging to our Constitution. And I was going to tell the tech guys, no need to load up the teleprompter. I got everything that I need on the palm of my hand. It says, I am the NRA. Actually, we're not bitter clingers at all. We're very, very proud to be here and proud to be among so many great Americans, just liberty-loving constitutionalists, those of you who understand why it is that we need the NRA, we're part of the NRA, and we know that protection of our Constitution is the security that our nation needs. Such an honor to be here tonight. And again, proudly clinging to our constitutional rights, proud to be Americans, and this, the greatest country on God's green earth. I know that you too, proud to be the NRA. I was hoping that Todd and the kids could come with me to this event. We meet up with Todd tonight in Arizona, but all the kids, they send their very best, even little Trig, and somebody heard me backstage talking about little Trig. I said, yeah, Trigger, he's gonna be, I'm mentioning, you know, his nickname Trigger, and they said, you named your kid after a gun? You take this NRA stuff pretty seriously, don't you? Trig. But Americans are so grateful for all that the NRA does, and NRA, the board members working so hard, the membership being so supportive, all the NRA does to protect our Second Amendment rights. And if you love your constitutional rights, if you love your freedom, then what we do is we remember to thank a vet. We remember to thank those who have served in the past or serving today in uniform. So I would ask those of you who have served in the United States military or proudly serving today, if you would stand up, we're gonna salute you and we're gonna thank you guys for freedom. United States military, America's finest men and women in uniform, a source for good throughout this world, and that is nothing to apologize for. Thank you, U.S. military. So honored to speak to you tonight to offer you greetings from the last frontier, where our men, they proudly use firearms, and our women do too. We do proudly cling to our constitutional rights up north, but there are others who have, we've been watching this kind of, others targeting our state as a fundraising gimmick for their anti-Second Amendment, anti-hunting campaigns. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about those attacks on our hunting and subsistence lifestyle, but first I'm going to talk about the most basic attacks that we're seeing on our right to keep and bear arms for protection. These anti-Second Amendment activists, they set their sights on Alaska during the last election because my last year too serving as governor, I was the only candidate on either of the two major party tickets to be a member of the NRA. In fact, a proud lifetime member with an A+ rating. And that didn't sit very well with the delicate little ladies and gentlemen in the lamestream media. And they didn't know what to make of it. And I got my first taste of their agenda, some of these reporters' agenda, when I was asked during a campaign interview, this gal asked, "Isn't gun violence in America a health issue? Because we spend billions of dollars every year treating people who are hurt by gun violence." And kind of took me aback, and you know how much patience I have with lamestream media, about this much patience. So of course, I probably kind of flippantly answered something, sort of rolled my eyes, but I was thinking at the time, well, we spend billions of dollars every year treating people who are victims of car accidents, and in fact, more people die from car accidents than they will from a gunshot. Is driving then a health issue? I suppose you could say just about anything is a health issue if you want. And I learned during that interview, and because going on while I was giving this answer, that they had cut away, get a hold of this, that they had cut away from me giving this answer and cut to footage of a gunshot victim being carried away on a stretcher. Now, what was the purpose of that editorializing in what was supposedly an objective news story? What it was all about was emotionalism, and it was propaganda. They wanted people to conclude that guns lead to violent death. So they figured, let's show the victim of a violent crime while this NRA gun nut chick talks about upholding the Second Amendment. Kind of that vision that they wanted to portray, that visual. That's what they were doing. But there was a problem there with their reasoning. Criminals, of course, are to blame for crimes. It's the bad guys, not the piece of metal, that's to blame. Criminals, by definition, don't follow the law. Anti-Second Amendment gun laws don't affect them. They don't care what kind of gun laws are passed. Those gun laws, those gun ban attempts, they affect us. When politicians try to ban guns, all they do is take them away from law-abiding citizens, and we use them responsibly. They're making sure that only criminals then have guns. And I was doing a little bit of research. Last spring, I was going to do a speech for a gun collectors club, and my 7-year-old at the time, Piper, she was sitting there with me while I was writing the speech, and I said, "Piper, what do you think if government were to take away guns and only bad guys had the guns? What do you think about that?" And she said, "Well, then we'd be losers because we'd be left with just the bow and arrow." I thought, oh, the wisdom of a child. The wisdom of a child. More gun laws don't prevent violent crime. In fact, countries that have effectively banned citizens from owning privately their guns, they've seen an increase in violent crime. There are many causes for violent crime, but destroying the Second Amendment is no answer, and it isn't a cause for any of those violent crimes. And we can see this in our own country. Nationwide, folks, nationwide, gun ownership is at an all-time high, and our violent crime rate is near a 30-year low. We're making a difference. The NRA is making a difference by telling the truth. We're making a difference by not imposing more gun laws, but by enforcing the existing ones. And that's just common sense. But the anti-gun groups, they don't deal with common sense. They deal with that emotionalism and propaganda, and they deal in lies. And they pound the bully pulpit every time a crazed lunatic goes on a shooting spree, which is always so extremely tragic. But they never publicize the many instances where a shooting spree was stopped because a good law-abiding citizen exercised his Second Amendment rights and stopped the criminal. You don't hear a lot about that. Wayne LaPierre, he said it best. He said the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And think about this, our Second Amendment rights, they are so important, especially to women and to minorities, because we know that the right to bear arms protects those who some want to perceive as being weaker. You know, the weak from the strong are protected. It's like the old saying, God made men and women, and Colonel Colt made them equal.